Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the co-festival director and program director for Something Wicked Film Festival and Events, and welcome to our podcast. Today, we are exploring the Z grade horror film this time. And to join me this week is one of my favorite guys who loves to talk everything about low budget horror film, which is Thomas Tinnerello. Before we get to what the title of this movie is, though, I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit about himself.
Oh, Kevin, am I really one of your favorite guys? That's so sweet.
We always have such lively conversations.
I know, right? Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I am Thomas James Tinnerello. I'm an author, screenwriter mostly, podcaster, and I live in Dallas, Georgia, with my family, and I just do stuff. I do creative stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much me. I've been struggling in the industry for like about 10, 12 years now, and I got some stuff on the horizon that might change that. So we'll see how that goes.
Excellent. So, you know what? I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna let you tell everybody the name of the movie that we are doing this week.
Well, the name of the movie officially is Creature, and the juxtaposition of that with the genre and what the story is and everything would make you believe that this is an alien ripoff, and so that's why it's a one-word title. And you would, of course, be very right. This is very much part of that subgenre that came about in the early '80s, probably all the way until the mid '90s, called the alien ripoff. Um, and we'll probably go into later a bit about what exactly constitutes a remake as opposed to a rip-off, or a not spoof, but like what Asylum does. What would you call that?
It would almost be like a parody, but not really a parody. They just
Oh,
gotta take popular.
oh, I remember what their terminology for it is: mockbuster. A
Oh,
mockbuster. is is this movie a mockbuster, a ripoff, or is it maybe a meta movie? We'll talk about that later. But anyway, it's officially called Creature, and that was kind of its title when it was released on. I'm not sure this movie. Well, according to IMDb, it did have a limited theatrical release, but mostly it went straight to video here in the States, where it was called Creature on VHS. However, apparently the original title was The Titan Find. And as what happens with most horror movies, a lot of times, marketing gets in the way and changes it. But apparently there was a lot of studio interference with this movie and re-editing and rejiggering, and William Malone did not like that. And that version is what was sold on VHS as Creature. But years later, now, I think the version that you find on Tubi, probably, that's where I watched it, is its original title, Titan Find. And I don't know editing-wise what the difference is between the original and this one, but that's the title that's on the movie itself when you play it. But in order to find it on Tubi, you have to type in Creature, which brings you up 16 other movies called Creature, so that's a little problematic. But the problem is even worse if you want to look up anything about this movie on IMDb. If you type in Creature, you'll have all those different other movies called Creature or have the word Creature in the title. So if you want to find it really quick, just type in Titan Find, and this creature will come up right on the list. So that's what I had to do. So maybe when you post this, Kevin, then you say Creature, aka Titan Find, because that will probably help a lot of people when looking this stuff up. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to reference a few visual things about this movie that will require the audience to take it. I mean, obviously, if you're driving, don't do this, but it's gentle readers. But like the posters and promo stuff materials around this movie are things that we're going to talk about and are worth mentioning. So I'm going to make reference to those things, and you as listeners at home should probably take some time and look those things up. So, but when you're doing it, type in Titan Find, and it'll make your search a lot easier.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm trying to remember what company actually did a upgraded version of it. I'm trying to remember, but
Scream
there, huh?
Was it Scream Factory?
I don't think it was Scream Factory. It was a different company that did a Blu-ray version that was upgraded, and it probably is known on that as Titan Find.
That
My
was
version is a really crappy, uh, one of three crappy horror films on the same Blu-ray or the DVD list. Mine's cropped. It's 4:3 and all that. So,
oh
right.
wow. You watched the version William Malone hated.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's the version I grew up watching. Now, the reason why we're actually doing this film and the reason why it was on my list is because when I was growing up as a kid, I loved this fucking movie. I don't know why. I love this movie. I was all into the alien ripoff movies. There's tons of them out there that came out, and I loved them all. This, Deep Space. I was all about the crappy Alien ripoff movies because Aliens was one of my favorite films of all time. Alien and Aliens, by the way. And so I kind of like saw every ripoff movie that there was, and they all became favorites of mine that I kept watching over and over, no matter how bad they actually were. And by no means is this a good movie. This would be called, in my opinion, a guilty pleasure, which means that most people think it's horrible, but I think it's actually fun to watch.
Yeah, this definitely comes at the tail. Since this comes out in 85, I believe is the release date of this. Because this is pre Aliens. Because Aliens came out in 88.
Yeah.
So this is pre Aliens. And so this comes out kind of almost at the tail end of the Alien ripoff kind of craze that was happening at the time.
Well,
and yeah. So I guess you got your origin for this. I'm gonna be honest. My first brush, I'm not gonna. Well, the first time I saw this movie was for this podcast about a week. But that is not my first brush with this movie. My first brush with this movie was when I was a little boy. We were shopping at an old Hollywood video rental store back in the early '90s, and we were trying to find something to watch, and I'm gazing at those covers in the science fiction section. Like, this movie got misshelved and put in the science fiction, not the horror section. And this was one of those covers that kind of intrigued me. And like I said, I wish you all could see this. So look it up. Look up the. It's not on. Wait a minute. What did I say? If you can look this up on IMDb, it's not the lame thumbnail. The poster I'm talking about is not the lame looking poster that's yellow with reptilian eyes that you see on IMDb. That is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the one that is purple and black, and it's just space and creature, the title, and you see the creature peeking out from behind a planet, which is Titan, apparently. That's what intrigued me, that weird looking jagged teeth creature. And I tried to get my mom to have me rent it. She wouldn't have it. I think that same day I was also trying to get Alan Arkin, God rest him, because I thought it would be a superhero movie, and thankfully cooler heads prevail, because from what I've heard, that movie is terrible. I still haven't seen Captain Invincible, but yeah. So this movie does have like two really good posters. There's another one on IMDb you can see where it may have been like the international version, but like you don't see the creature. Maybe he's in the background a little bit. I'll send you a link if I can. Copy link. Oh wait, I don't have your number now. I'll do it later. But anyway, so this thing is like has the three leads, including Klaus Kinski, who we'll talk about later, all with big space guns, and they're all pointed in different directions, looking like they're shooting at speed, like they're surrounded by aliens that you can't see, and it's painted beautifully. So that one's pretty awesome. There's also a standee poster that is listed on here that I want to read some of, because the description they give for this movie is amazeballs. Here it is. So I don't know if you can see this, Kevin. If you just go to the IMDb, it's like the third poster listed here.
Let me see, because I have nope, that's not IMDb. Creature. I will tell you this: that it is Vinegar Syndrome who did the Blu-ray version is right now. They did a new painted cover for it and everything. I knew that they had just did a upgraded version for the movie. Don't ask me why exactly, but Vinegar Syndrome picked it up. It could be because William Malone's a bigger name now than he was originally.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We'll talk about what William Malone eventually eventually became more famous for later. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
What?
Oh no, I'm looking at one of the international posters. I guess this could be German. In Taran.
Yeah. The one I want to focus on is the one that it looks just like a standee. It has like for 2,000 years. It's the taglines to this movie are pretty amazing, by the way.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, and
so
that's the thing it's really good. It's really a good tagline for a movie.
Yeah, the tagline is this: for 2,000 centuries, it slept. From now on, you won't. Ba, ba, ba.
Yeah, I think I may have remembered seeing this in the video stores back when they originally came out.
Yeah, and then here's the advert blurb in there, which I think is hilarious. Stay up with Creature, a science fiction nightmare featuring Klaus Kinski, nominated for Best Horror Film and Best Film of 1984 by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, which I'm sure is totally a legit organization.
It is.
Or it is. Are they still around? I don't know.
I don't know. I have to look them up, but they were.
Or it says, as an alternative, or venture into the future with Android, a science fiction action film. That is not what it is. Also starring Klaus Kinski. Although I will say that movie is legitimately good. I do remember seeing that, at least a censored version of it, on Creature Feature when I was a kid. And Kinski is amazing in that movie. There's more excitement in these two video cassettes than in your wildest dreams. It also says available on video this October with Day of the Triffids, Virus, Slithus, A Boy and His Dog, The Dark, and A Force Beyond, which is the only one on that list I had not even heard of.
So my version of this is actually paired up with Virus. So so my copy is Virus in Embryo. With Creature. I had never heard of Embryo before I bought the triple feature disc. Virus I was aware of, but not Embryo. So those three. All in 4:3. I will have a widescreen version that I'm sure the Blu-ray version is for widescreen, but mine is 4:3. So
So I guess that's one thing that's good about this film in particular is that it fits into that kind of VHS nostalgia sort of itch that some people have. I mean, I'm sure people who like are VHS enthusiasts probably have a soft spot in their heart for a film like this, just because you might have those sort of. But I'm surprised that you were such a huge fan of this particular movie back then. I'm like,
so I would like to tell everybody when I was a kid, and you gotta remember I'm old. I think I'm pretty much older than you are, Thomas. When I was a kid, these type of films didn't always come out all the time. So when I used to venture out into the VHS stores or video rental stores, like they were like every week my parents would take me or my father would take me to the video store and he'd pretty much rent me whatever the hell I wanted to rent. He didn't care what it was rated or not. He kind of just let me do whatever I wanted to do, which is great because I got to see a lot of weird fucking movies. Creature, I do remember that poster that you just pulled out. I hadn't thought about it until I saw it again. And I used to collect posters from the video stores because I used to give them away once the movies are old. But this movie is one of the ones where we rented it, I recorded it, and for some reason I watched it all the time. I can't tell you why. I watched this in Deep Space and Aliens a billion times growing up as a kid. Like I said, it's a guilty pleasure. I can't tell you if the movie's any good or not. Not really. It's a movie that I, for some reason, gravitated towards as a kid, and I watched a lot more than I should have. But then again, I also grew up watching a lot of Roger Corman movies, and he did a lot of sci-fi fantasy movies back in the day that I watched more than I should have.
Yeah. Did you ever see Android, by the way? The other
I
kids
did.
movie?
I have it. I have it. I have a lot of those. Dude, when I started going back and rewatching a lot of the films that I hadn't seen in a long time as
Yeah.
an adult, I started picking up all those type of movies. I have them all. I have a version of them. I will not say I have the best version of them. Hence why my version of Creature is a 4:3 version that looks like it was literally copied over from a VHS tape. Uh But until now, no one had bothered to actually upgrade Creature, and I understand why. I doubt it made any money or any significant amount of money. It probably did on VHS, but I don't remember. It's not a movie that you would see on cable all the time. You know,
Yeah, that's another. It was like, did your family have HBO when you were a kid?
I did have HBO as a kid. I had
No.
HBO and I had Disney for about 5 seconds before my parents pulled it because none of us watched it. But HBO we watched all the time, and
Yeah,
I
we had that too. And my mom did this thing where, and we'll probably talk about this too when we talk about other movies such as Darkman, because she totally did this with, is that my mom was super cheap, so we didn't actually go to the video rental store that often, which is why the few times we did are very like special to me. Most of the time, what she would do was just record stuff I wanted to see off of HBO or show. I think we also had Showtime. I don't think we had Cinemax because, yeah, no. Uh, but but I'm pretty sure that she would record movies off of HBO on our VCR and our VHS cassette and make really incongruous double or triple or quadruple feature or triple features on these VHS tapes. Like on one we had Rodan, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Disney version, and The Last Unicorn. Three
yeah.
movies that have absolutely nothing in common except that they're all in color.
Well, I'll tell you this, since we're getting off a little bit off a topic, but this is always fun for us when we do this. When I was a kid, my mother more or less put me in charge of recording everything. Because I was into technology back then, and so I was the one. None of my siblings ever did that. I have three other siblings. No, none of my siblings recorded shit. It was left up to my responsibility to record everyone in the family's shows and movies that they wanted to see. So I was the one that programmed the VHS player to record stuff when we weren't there. I was the one who recorded all the videos. I will admit this now for everyone. We rented all these movies and then we recorded them for our own library. Yes. I know it was illegal back then, but fuck if I didn't do everything. We rented everything. I recorded everything. I had copies of everything, which is why I was able to watch so many movies repeatedly. Growing up. Like I said, we rented Creature. I recorded it. I saw it another billion times. I couldn't tell you if it played on TV or not because I always watched it from our VHS tape. That's how it was, you know. you, you say that you laugh, but back then, when I was growing up, VHS, not everyone had one, and when we did, we wanted to record all the stuff that we just couldn't always watch, even though we only had like 5 television stations.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, also like we forget people, you youngsters out there who were born after the invention of the cell phone don't realize that when VHS, which was a reel-to-reel analog technology, that stuff when it first came out, it was super expensive.
Hmm.
Like I was up like early prices. Like I think to get like a first run cassette of Batman was like $30.
Oh, I remember when they were $100, dude.
Oh yeah, like when by the time it got to us, yeah. So yeah, for sure, they were super expensive. So I can't imagine like how much it would be to get like a new VCR back then. I think mom and dad probably got theirs from a pawn shop, to be honest. I don't think any of the VCRs we had were new.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit privileged in that respect because my parents ended up getting 2 VHS players, so that's how I was able to record movies that we rented. And I know a lot of people weren't able to do that back then because they would just record stuff off of television. But I was, for some reason, my parents really, really supported my technology brain.
Your video pirate.
Yeah, they supported my technology brain and they let me do whatever I want to. So as long as I told them, go get me 10 blank tapes, I'd have all their stuff they wanted, all the stuff that my siblings wanted, and then everything I wanted. But my father did take us to the video store religiously all the time as I was
Oh,
growing up. And so I got to see a lot of stuff as a kid, which is why when people are listening to these podcasts and I'm talking about these movies as when they actually were released, it's because I saw almost every one of these films when they were released because my parents let me rent everything I wanted. So I had a healthy dose of good horror films and bad horror films at the same time because as a kid, you look at the poster and the poster for Creature is cool as shit. I went in the video store and said, I have to see this movie. Boom, we rented it. My parents, did they watch it? No. They didn't watch, they probably watched 10% of the stuff that we rented. They just allowed me to watch whatever I want to. I recorded it and they may have watched it over the years. But pretty much I wasn't causing trouble. I wasn't, in the bad crowd. I fucking watched a ton of movies. Played video games as a kid. Now,
there might be worse things, yeah.
Well, nowadays kids just play video games.
Yeah. Or make stupid videos on TikTok.
So,
well, I think a big part of the fandom for this movie may also be the fact that William Malone has gone on to do bigger and better things.
Mm-hmm.
I was first, I think, exposed to the name when I saw Masters of Horror. He did one of the better episodes of Masters of Horror called The Fair-Haired Child.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was in the first season. And if you haven't seen that one, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's just like a story of a girl who gets abducted, put into a basement with another kid, and that's all you need to know because going in blind to that is the best thing ever. But he did start off doing really crappy, schlocky movies. But he's known for mainly being the guy who did the remake of House on Haunted Hill with Jeffrey Rush, which is still considered kind of a low-key classic and most often one of the examples that people use to say sometimes a remake is better than the original. Exhibit A. That's one. Like that and John Carpenter's The Thing, which we'll talk more about later because, yeah. Apparently he also did a really good movie called Parasomnia, which I have not seen.
Oh,
I heard good things about it.
It's a very good movie, but unfortunately, he has not done another feature since then. That movie, there was something wrong with the release of that movie. I had heard about it, and then it didn't. I don't think it came out for a while after I had heard about it, and then it kind of came and disappeared. Don't know why. I would love to know the history behind that one. I do know that his previous film Fear.com didn't do so well, and I enjoyed Fear.com. I mean, I really enjoyed that.
I remember when that came out because I was working at a movie theater when it came out. So,
yeah,
I was working at AMC.
But it didn't do well. So,
yeah. But he got to start making Halloween monster masks, and he would sculpt them himself and built his own. Apparently, he built his own monster from scratch for his first movie called Scared to Death. And he called the creature the Syngenor, short for synthesized genetic organism. Now, I still have not seen Scared to Death.
I've not seen Scared to Death yet. It's still on my list. I do know that they released a really good version of Scared to Death. I still have not seen it though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for those of you who don't know, Scared to Death is just basically what if the xenomorph, but in a regular neighborhood. Like it's Alien in a neighborhood, a suburban neighborhood. It just kills people. And Syngenor, basically, we have 2 or 3 of these aliens now, and also David Gale from Reanimator is here to play. So that's why that movie is great. But I'm pretty sure he recycled that mask of the Syngenor in this movie. You can't. The video quality is kind of meh, even on the Tubi version, which I'm pretty sure is an HD transfer. But I could swear that, and we'll get to it later, but there is a moment where a spaceship is going to crash into a space station, and they see on a little display monitor what they think is an astronaut piloting the ship, and when I first saw it, I looked like I thought it was just a skeleton inside a spacesuit. But there's another promo video, a promo photo that shows like an alien Sinjanor type creature in a spacesuit, which is not a moment in this movie. So I'm thinking that that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be like a mutated astronaut that became a Sinjanor thing, basically, that was piloting that ship kamikaze style. So
interesting.
Maybe that's what it was. But if that is the case, then that means that William Malone got a lot of mileage out of that Sinjanor.
So, if for those of you who have not ever seen or heard of Creature, it's essentially a film about these two warring companies after the same type of resources. And unfortunately, these scientists have ventured to Titan, which is one of Saturn's moons, and found something, a derelict with a bunch of stuff in it. And they both, the two scientists that we see on screen, die, but one of them ends up crash landing into a satellite by Earth, which sends these two companies out there trying to race each other to get to this derelict that these astronauts found. Now,
and the Germans, and you have to understand that one is an American-ish company called NTI, which aside from being what James Cameron called the underwater aliens in the abyss, it also sounds like a venereal disease. NTI, man, I got some NTI, man. But then there's also a German company, it's the other faction. I think they're called Reichardt International or something. I wrote it down and I can't find it. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so the Germans got there first, and we've received nothing from there. And also, apparently, when you get there and you see this beautiful matte painting of their ship, they have a much better looking spaceship than the Americans do. We do spend quite a bit of time in that German spaceship.
We do.
Although they kind of look the same. But anyway.
But what happens is the Germans have already gone into this derelict and already encountered this creature that the previous researchers had encountered and had died from. So now this creature, in theory, has killed all the Germans, and now the Americans, with their boldness, have now been, I guess, marooned on the moon after crashing there, and trying to figure out how to get the hell off the moon, while also trying to fend for their lives on this creature, which is really cool in the fact that what it does is it's a smart creature that has these biological parasites that it puts on humans or any other creatures, and it can control them, like controlling zombies. These are some of the aspects that make it a little bit different than the xenomorph from the Alien movies, in that this is supposed to be an intelligent creature. Despite the fact that in the world of the movie, this damn creature has been in hibernation for over 200,000 years. And still thinking.
Why that the creature was conscious for 20,000 years. That it's like gone insane while being inside its giant Tylenol-shaped capsule. Which, by the way, we shouldn't gloss over this. You mentioned the two American scientists, which is funny because they are American, but the Germans got there first. So
yeah,
these two that was weird. It should have been two German guys who did this. But the scene that I saw, maybe the version you saw was different, but the version I saw, the Titan Find, opens as a cold open with these two guys finding the capsule, and we get this hilarious exchange of dialogue right here.
You do. It's where they're trying to see who's going to sit on top of the capsule for a picture.
Oh, even before that, you get this. This is what I think is hilarious. One of the scientists goes, "Wait a minute, what? This thing in here is has been in there for like 500,000 years. So what? If we wake it up, it's liable to be very hungry and very pissed. What kind of scientist are you? Come on." What kind of scientist are you? The smart kind.
Well, I could talk about the way that I think it was Malone who actually wrote the script too. or whoever wrote the script, decided to make this more of, like it says, a mockbuster of this movie, in that none of the scientific aspects actually seem to make sense in the movie. But you just go with it because despite not being a Roger Corman film, it's still Roger Corman-esque.
It feels like Corman would have done. Although I think if Corman had done this movie, and I only say this because of what I have seen him do in some other movies that are also alien ripoffs, the production value in this probably would have been slightly bigger. Like, he would have at least used some like stock footage from Battle Beyond the Stars. You know, he probably also introduced some other big name actors other than Klaus Kinski to come on and do like a day or something. Like, I feel like there is a distinctive kind of feel to like the New World era of Corman films in a weird way. Yeah. I think. Yeah, and this does not have that.
No, and it definitely has that feeling of being a low budget sci-fi horror film that, you know, they're jumping on the bandwagon of the alien movies, and it's coming out real fast. Like you said, it may have had a limited theatrical release and then went straight to video because video was huge, and then kind of disappeared, despite the fact that having Klaus Kinski. I don't know where in his career he was at the point this movie was made, because I know he was a problem child in terms of working with. So this could have come at the very end of his career. I hate to say that. And he was like the only named person they could get for the movie.
Yeah, I think he died in, where did he die? He died in, I think, 89, 90. So, yeah, he died fairly young. So I don't think this is towards the end of his career. I think this is towards the part in his career, like post Nosferatu Phantom der Nacht, where he had made a string of movies with Werner Herzog.
Yep.
And after that, he made a string of really crappy movies, such as this and Crawl Space. Which we may or may not put on the list because, oh boy.
Actually, that needs to go on the list. Crawl Space needs to go on the list.
It's something to see, that's for sure. We'll talk more about Kinski when we get to his section where he tries to save this movie single-handedly, because I got some stuff about Kinski. But like, I just want to say, like, I'm just gonna play my hand a little early here. Like, I did not like this movie as much as I thought I would. I really didn't. I thought it would be so bad. It's great, but it's not bad enough to do that. But there are times where it almost gets there, and we'll talk about that. There are times where I was like, what the heck? But I do say this does include some of my little kind of pet pleasures. No, not guilty pleasures, but this movie does contain things that I love, which is to say, long, slow shots of model ships going slowly through space. That's why, but I love that, and we get that in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's funny how we go from that when the ship's finally coming to Titan, which, yes, is one of Saturn's moons, and also, you're going to get some science here, folks. It is the second biggest moon in the entire solar system. It's not quite the size of our moon, which, by the way, that's another scientific inaccuracy of this movie. Like, when they're walking around like it's Earth gravity, no, that is not how it's like on Titan. You'd be bouncing around on Titan. But there's a lot of more fascinating stuff to talk about at Titan on what it's really like, and also how William Malone may have inadvertently did some science on this that is accurate to Titan. I don't think he did any real research, but there you go.
I doubt it.
But like, oh yeah, I do like how when they're coming to the planet, how the captain of this movie, played by I think Steve Ivor is his name, and his character is supposed to be like Douglas or Davidson or something, but I'm gonna call him Captain Ivor because that sounds cool. If your last name is cooler than your character's last name, you should be called by your real name, especially if your last name is Ivor. But there's an abrupt jump cut from the spaceship to him talking to the crew saying, all we got to do is bag it, tag it, and report back. But our curly blonde doctor who I'll call her Dr. Blonde, because I don't remember her character's name or actor's name. Because also, I suck with names, and I'm sorry. But she's like, why do we need security on this mission? Because this is where we introduce our security officer, the second star of this movie. I will call her Officer Simone, because she's played by Diane Salinger,
Yeah.
who people may remember as Simone from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Such an odd, yes.
And this was her first movie, and it's amazing to see. She's like, I'm gonna describe her part to you guys out there, like girls listening. But like, try and picture this tall, statuesque woman with dark hair and really super high, pointy, razor sharp cheekbones, wearing an outfit that I could describe as like a bad version of the evil Diana lady from the V miniseries. And her hair is kind of like a cross between Zool and Ghostbusters and Sean Young and Blade Runner.
Oh my God, that's spot on perfect.
Yeah, so I think that's what you'll get. And for like the first third of this movie, she does not speak. And the only thing we know about her is that she's got some kind of prescription drug problem that never pays off later on in the movie.
I don't know. You know what? The whole drug thing only comes up once. After she steals all the drugs, and she just knocks out the very first person who becomes hysterical. Forgot what his name is. The one guy who watches his girl getting killed by the alien, the very first one.
Oh yeah, I will call that guy Officer Jaff. He's played by Robert Jaff, who is hands down the worst actor in this movie. I think the only time he is good, ironically, is spoilers, folks, when he is dead and taken over by the alien parasite and is trying to convince the crew that he's not dead and and is just fine, guys. I have to say, he actually, I would buy it. I would buy that. He convinced me. Yeah, everything's okay. The only problem is that if you look at all closely, you can see like the little tentacle of the creature that's parasiting his brain is like right there on his forehead, because his head is turned in such a way that you can't see it, but you can still see the little tentacle on his forehead. I mean, I know those video monitors and those multi-million-dollar futuristic spaceships are really like substandard, not even HD. It's like 720 maybe on these monitors. But you'd see that. Come on. Anyway, so yeah. But apparently that guy is he's a terrible actor, and he realized that because Robert Jaff's he only did a couple other movies after this as an actor. The last one he did was Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Motorcycle.
But he's known mostly, I think, more for being a writer. He is a writer of such immortal classics as Demon Seed, Motel Hell, and the first adaptation of anything by George R.R. Martin, The Night Flyers.
Which is a horrible movie.
Yes.
I saw that 2 years ago for the very first time because it was one of those films that had been on my list. And I was like, I finally found the bootleg of it. I don't think it's ever been officially released, so I have a bootleg of it. But I'm a huge fan of Catherine Mary Stewart, who knows who she was in. She was in The Last Starfighter and Dudes and Night of the Comet. So when I was growing up, I loved watching her in those three movies alone. So I've been looking forward for this fucking movie, Night Flyers. Didn't find it anywhere. Finally found a bootleg of it, so I've seen the bootleg of it. Horrible, god awful. I can see why no one's bothered to take this movie and do an upgrade of it. It's god awful. It's horrible. And then they did a television show recently of it. That was also god awful. I'm like, dude, this might be one of our most worst stories.
It makes me want to read the short story, the novella that Martin wrote. I also kind of want to read that just to see what is so difficult about this book that is so hard to adapt. Why can't anybody get it?
Did you see the show?
I did not see the show.
Oh my god. It almost could have been at least a decent show, but it was god awful too. I was like, the movie was god awful, the show's god awful, and the the show tries to improve upon the movie. I'm assuming that there's not a whole lot to the original novella. So they try to extrapolate and add a lot of stuff. And it doesn't matter what they add; it's still a horrible fucking show. I was like, dude,
I think maybe this is my theory. I think maybe the real reason why is that they can't get anything out of the shadow. Like they can't. Okay, let me phrase this. Stylistically speaking, they can't get out of. Well, obviously, the original Night Flyers doesn't have this problem. That's just sheer stupidity. But for the miniseries, I think maybe the problem was they couldn't get Event Horizon out of their head. Because Event Horizon is basically a ripoff, we're talking about ripoffs, of that novella. It's almost like they didn't have the rights to George R. R. Martin's Night Flyers, and they basically just said, screw it, let's just do our own original version. And that is literally, that's just what Event Horizon was.
You know what? You just hit the nail on the hammer, or the hammer on the nail there. That is exactly what it is. And they just couldn't get it right even after Horizon came out. You are absolutely correct. Oh my God. I will probably have to do a show on Night Flyers just so that everyone knows, because I guarantee you most people have never ever seen the original movie Night Flyers.
And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing. But I want to talk about next is, like, speaking of Robert, going back to Robert Joff, the first, like, hysterical, for me, knockdown, drag out, hilarious moment in this movie is when Officer Jaff and his girlfriend, who I will simply call girl of indeterminate accent, I think she's supposed to be German, ? But they go off together and go to the observation deck. And I'm not sure if they've already landed on the planet. No, they haven't even landed on the planet yet. They're just looking at Titan through this circular window, and they're having this nice little romantic moment. And they're like, hold on, because their dialogue here is also amazing. Here we go. This is the turning point in this movie for me, because oh boy. Anyway, because all right, just pause recording here while I find my place, because this is important. Okay, here we go. All right, so they're like standing there in front of this deck, and they're all like, the guy Joff is like, oh, look how pretty Titan is, and the stars remind me of home, because I think he's from like Oklahoma or something. And she's like, it's creepy. I feel suffocated by it. I have a horrible feeling that I'm not coming back. He's like, no, baby, it's okay. She's like, I know it. Which, of course, we know, yes, you're deaf. If you're saying that, yeah, you're gonna die. But then pause. She looks deep into his 70s haircut and says, make love to me, please. And the moment she said that, I freaking lost it. I was like, oh my gosh. It's one of those movies.
Well, that being said, they do have a sexcapade when she's already been turned into the zombie and controlled by the creature.
Well, their first sexcapade is like the most PG rated kind of love scene, with a little bit of flash of, the boobs. But I don't think there's any real sexiness going on later on when she's a zombie. There's a lot more nudity, but no real sexiness. Because that spacesuit does not come off for him. But like that first scene with them, it's just like, I'm thinking to myself things like, I mean, this is not, it's not just this movie. This is a trope in a lot of movies, especially the second. And it makes me want to pull my hair out every time, because it's like, she's like, I know I'm gonna die. I'm a woman of indeterminate accent in space going to a creepy planet. I want to get laid before I get raped by a giant maggot creature, raped by a penis-shaped alien, or raped by Klaus Kinski, and then get made dead. Take me now. And I'm like, ugh.
Well,
Why? Like, uh,
Well, there's a lot of sexual tension in this movie, which is probably what helped sell it
Jeff,
between that her and Robert Jaff's character, and of course Klaus Kinski, who wants to keep filling up Bryce's character or
oh,
Bryce.
that's a great scene, by the way. Oh, and point of and trivia, guys. When Klaus Kinski feels up Officer Simone, that is not in the script. That was just Klaus Kinski saying, "Hey, if I don't betray something," because I think Klaus Kinski just wanted to feel up Officer Simone.
Oh, geez. And of course he kept doing it throughout the entire movie.
God, I'm sure he asked for at least multiple takes of that moment. But I think what redeems that scene that happens way later on when they find him, or rather he finds them, is that he gets his butt handed to him for failing up Officer Simone, who promptly drop kicks him and throws him against the wall. But in that, Kinski kind of steals from her a little bit by his reaction, which is he looks up and wipes the blood from his cheek like, oh yeah. he likes he likes it. But her line is important because they call back to that kind of. Her line is, he's like, what do you like? And she's like, violence. Kick. But like, I'll tell you, I would not have, that first McLuff to me would probably have caused me to just shut the movie off and go on and watch something else. But for you, Kevin, and for you, dear listeners out there, I soldiered on to the rest of this movie.
When you're a kid watching this, you have a whole different aspect than when you're an adult, because like when I was a kid watching this, of course you're seeing these sex scenes in the sci-fi movie, and you think, oh, that's some cool shit. When you're an adult watching this movie, like you were when you first saw it like a week ago, it's like, oh my God, what the hell am I watching? This is so bad.
Oh, by the way, I'll say something funny about this. Now, after that first, cross-fading bodies sex scene, the actual proper before the second one where he gets killed, the very next shot is like this abrupt jump cut of like computer monitors. And when I wrote that note down, I don't know why, but my autocorrect, instead of saying, I wrote in my notes, sex scene fast forward to scene of computers, my autocorrect spelled out computers. Cumpuders. I'm like, what did my phone think I was trying to write? What is a computer?
I'm sure it probably goes perfectly with the movie itself.
I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a technical term for that thing in THX 1138 that comes down from the ceiling when Robert Duvall is watching that weird like cyber porn and collects his maybe that's what that's supposed to be. I don't know. The phone is weird. So yeah, like Klaus Kinski just kind of comes in and by the way, we're still recording.
Yep.
Okay. So Kinski does come in and tries to like save this picture, and he's got this like big bit of his big scene is like this exposition scene basically where he's saying, we have stumbled across somebody's butterfly collection of creatures from all over the galaxy, which if you think about it could have opened this movie up to a much bigger thing. Like this could have been Prometheus before Prometheus, because like William Malone was a monster maker. He made masks and stuff. He could have had like a huge like variety of different creatures who like the creature in question could have opened up the canisters and been like, hey, come help me kill people. And we could have had like the Sinjanor creature again in full regalia. We could have had like a spider monster or something. We could have had like a freaking like squid face person. It could have Xenomorph ripoff, and we get the what do you call the parasites that he uses to stick, which according to one source I read is supposed to be like technology the creature uses, but it's not. It's a leech.
A mind controlling bio leech. Yeah.
A mind controlling bio leech, which is very, very Wrath of Khan of the creature, if you think about it.
Very. Yeah, I didn't think about that till now, but that's a good. That's a good point.
Yeah, which I think had been released like the 2 years prior, so maybe that's where I got it from. But like he's doing, like I said, he's doing like this kind of. He's not as crazy as I wanted him to be, but he's German crazy, which is to say, unbelievably happy about something that is very, very terrifying. He is if you want to see a modern equivalent of that, of course you would get Christoph Waltz. So like Christoph Waltz is clearly what our version of Klaus Kinski, the handsomer and more redemptive. He's a good human, unlike Kinski, who was a terrible human. But what he does in this scene is basically kind of sets a tone that's like legitimately eerie, because he says, when I got here, my guys, they were killed one by one by this thing that had been waiting 200 centuries. And now he's here for us.
Yeah. As though his character would actually know a whole bunch of stuff because he would understand technology that's 200,000 years ago. But it makes for a good story element.
That is one thing. That's what I thought. I thought to myself, how the heck does he know that? Like, how would they have figured that out? Like, I mean, I want to know how he could possibly have known that. But I also want to know how the heck he survived all this time.
Well, I mean, he as soon as he gets over to the American ship, he eats a lot of food before he goes back over to his ship.
That is something I wanted to talk about earlier, because I forgot to mention, but like this, like a sub kind of theme of this movie is food. Because like when Girl of Indeterminate Accent has her death scene, gets killed by the creature, she is snacking on food that I don't think it's hers. It was just laying there. So what is she, like, eating the German snacks that have been sitting around for months? What?
I don't think it's a time part, but yeah, there's some type of time limit between when the Germans are all dead and the Americans finally show up.
And then, like, later on, like the time we come back to Kinski and they're getting ready to boot up and go to the German ship because they're finding out that their air is running out. But there's plenty of air on the other ship. He's like, Kinski is eating this thing. He's snacking on a sandwich that I cannot tell what the heck it is.
No, it looks like some weird salad sandwich of some type.
Well, it's very white. It's whiter than he is. I think it's probably like sauerkraut, because everybody knows Germans eat sauerkraut, right? It's got to be that. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, that's really kind of his stamp on this thing. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best Kinski's ever been. I mean, you have to go to things like, Agari, The Wrath of God, or, Nosferatu, Phantom der Nacht. And of course, low budget masterpieces like Android and Crawl Space for the best of Kinski. But if you want to just, I mean, if you're not familiar with the man's work, this is probably a good place to get a taste, I guess.
That's a good point to make. You're right. In this one film, if you're not really familiar with Klaus Kinski, you will be after this one film with the handful of scenes that he's actually in. He does stand out among the entire cast in this film.
Oh, by the way, I don't want to not mention this, but like, speaking of the many, many things this is a ripoff of, did you notice the Star Wars sound effects in this movie that they just stole? Like, every door that opens is the laser blast scene, is the laser blast sound effect.
Yes, it does call attention to itself.
Yeah, and they use it a lot.
Yeah,
because I thought those sound effects were copyrighted. Like, I don't think you could use those at all.
I don't actually know all of the sound effects that aren't and how they got through it. Yeah, I couldn't tell you it all. But I did notice that. I was like, man, these sound effects do sound familiar, because it's so often that the doors open and shut that you start to hear it all the time.
Yeah, it's very, It's very off-putting. I only remember like one other time where I could see that. My cat's got mischief going on. I only remember that one other time in a movie called Past Perfect, where they literally just ripped off some sound effects of the speeder bikes in the Endor sequence from Return of the Jedi, and then tried to mess it up like the probes that were flying were just doing that. Like they didn't even bother to edit it, is what I'm saying. They had to use it the way it was edited in the movie. It's really strange. But I want to talk next about like the one part in this movie where I feel like they lean into what a B movie version of Alien can do.
Yep.
Which is deliver on the gore. Because yes, the chestburster scene is disturbing and bloody, but it's not really particularly gory. Like if you watch the original Alien, there's really not a lot of body horror stuff beyond that first moment. You know, you don't see the xenomorph ripping people in half. You don't see the xenomorph, you see some like very quick close-ups of the second mouth going into someone's face, but you don't really see a whole lot else of anything else. But this next sequence where zombie Robert Jaffe, I don't think he's Spanish, so it can't be Jaffe. Anyway, he's a zombie now, but he looks okay. And he's got the parasite thing on his head, but he's bandaged it up with like a bandana so they don't see it, because that totally would work. And he's luring the pretty curly-haired doctor, who we are told he's luring her into the German ship, I think, into this place. Hey, let's go down to engineering and fix it, because I know how to do that. And he tells her, like, she tells him that I'm not really a doctor, I'm actually a biophysicist, which is not a thing that plays into the plot at all. I was hoping it to be, but doesn't. But he basically lures her into this really dark engineering section, which is where the third act of the movie is going to pretty much take place. And that's where she gets chomped on by the creature. But then curly redhead, the other female lead in this movie, who's not Simone, he tries to pull the same stuff with her, and she just sees the creature munching on the doctor, and she's like, I'm not having this, and rips his face off like it's a mask with just blood under it.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that's pretty cool.
Well, the very first lady who gets killed, that when they go back to the derelict, Bryce and Kinski's character, and they encounter her, she's like, skull's got nothing in it, blood. She opens her eyes, blood's everywhere, and like, wow, there's a lot of gore in this little movie. Because they pick and choose where they have it, but when they make these type of alien zombie things, they're gory.
Oh yeah, well the best part I didn't even talk about yet, because after he's got his face ripped off, at least the front part of it. His eyes are still intact, but he's trying to attack her and trying to get her to, get eaten or impregnated by the by the creature who I guess is controlling him. And lo and behold, Captain Ivar and the other, big commander who we haven't even mentioned, who I call him Dollar Store Alan Thicke, because he kind of reminds me of that. He's supposed to represent the company. So all this time up until this point, he and Captain Ivar have been having this kind of, I'm the commander of this mission. No, I'm the commander of this mission. No, I'm the commander of this mission. And by the end of the movie, they're like buddy cops all of a sudden. They're like, we can both command this mission and work together and destroy this thing. But anyway, this is I think it's probably the first scene where they actually do work together. They come in, and they literally, like, one of them, I think it's Dollar Store Alan Thicke, shoots zombie Joff, and his head just explodes. And it's a very good head explosion, and they linger on it.
Well, if the film lacks anything, it does not lack gore. Good
quality.
Good quality gore, and that's another drawing point for when it was originally released. I'm sure you didn't see much of this type of gore in these type of movies because after whenever I can't remember when Friday 13th Part 6 came out and they started to mainstream films stopped using so much gore in their films because it was alienating parents and audiences. They started to get watered down, and this definitely was not a watered down film. It was gory.
No, that watering down didn't really happen, I think, until like the late 80s, early 90s.
Is that how?
Yeah, because that's when the MPAA like was starting to crack down on gore and horror.
I can never remember when Friday 13th Part 6 came out. Somewhere around there, though. That's when you start down.
Yeah, it was late 80s for sure. Because I remember when they were talking about that. But yeah, that head explosion is just like, I mean, it's a very simple effect because it's not a fake head. Like, it's the guy. You can tell there's a human eyes in there. So they did it with a cut. There's like, it's a human eye, human head, 1 second, cut. The head has already exploded, but the way the cut happens, it looks like it literally just. And that's like such a great, simple, practical effect. And I wish they used it more often these days.
You know they want to do that. They don't have to remake heads to explode them anymore. Everything has to be CGI.
I know.
You can't get Tom Savini to blow up a head like he did in Maniac. Yeah, that stuff doesn't happen nearly as much as it should.
He blew up his own head in Maniac, which is amazing. He had to make a cast of his own head.
Sure.
Watch it explode. But yeah, so like Captain Ivar like yanks out the pair. Oh, he fights Zombie Klaus Kinski because at this point, Klaus Kinski and his favorite woman he wants to rape, Officer Simone, have gone out to do some investigating out there in the alien laboratory, which, by the way, apparently has some props from Forbidden Planet in it. I don't know if you noticed that. Specifically, there's like a little cross like switch thingamajigger that they play with at the beginning of the movie. That thing is like a Krell control panel from Forbidden Planet, which to this day has yet to be remade.
You know, you're absolutely right.
I remember that there was talk that was going to happen in the 90s. I only know this because like Harlan Ellison did a whole commentary on it on Sci-Fi Buzz in the 90s, and he's like, no, don't remake Forbidden Planet, do the sequel to Forbidden Planet. And he goes into this whole spiel about how they should do the sequel to Forbidden Planet and how it could work. And but yeah, I remember, I guess that never got past development.
Like so many great movies like Creature 2. They would call it Creatures and focus on the other creatures that were possibly in that derelict.
Oh yeah, there were so many, and they didn't blow it up. I mean, spoilers ahead, the thing is still there when the movie is over. But when they come to the climax of it, they're trying to debate like the survivors who have survived Zombie Klaus Kinski, who, by the way, is somehow not nearly as scary as regular Klaus Kinski. I mean, it isn't. I will say though, like the build up to killing Zombie Klaus Kinski, where it's just curly blonde in the ship, is surprisingly suspenseful and very kind of well done. So good on you, William Malone, for doing that well. But curly blonde starts to try, the creature's going to get us. How do we stop it? And then a miraculous moment happens. She says, I saw a movie once where they had this giant alien carrot that was trying to kill them in Antarctica. And they killed the carrot with electricity. And she's like, maybe we can do the same thing. So this movie references how, well, first of all, okay.
You want to tell everybody the film that it references? If you don't already know, that's a reference to the thing from another planet with the giant.
The quote original, the version of The Thing by Howard Hawks. But what blows my mind though is like, I mean, when we first see this character at the beginning of the movie, she's reading a tattered paperback of Scared to Death. So I don't know what kind of, which is, as we mentioned before, was William Malone's first movie. As a novel, which I guess that happened. I don't know why there was such a demand for a paperback version of this straight-to-video horror movie called Scared to Death, but somebody did it. But like, I don't know what kind of dystopian hellscape they come from on Earth, where the only books that are available for your long space mission, and she did say it's the only book she took with her, are paperbacks of obscure horror movies from 200 years ago.
Oh,
But like, I don't know, or maybe I don't know, maybe he's trying to say the opposite, that access to culture is so big in that future that they can find these things. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, she knows the thing, but specifically she knows Howard Hawks is the thing. I almost wonder how different this movie would be if she had seen John Carpenter's The Thing.
well,
Like her solution to the problem wouldn't have been let's electrocute the thing. Her solution would have been we're dead. Let's blow the ship up.
which part of the plot is they end up finding all the explosives that are hidden on the German ship, and that's how they eventually do away with the creature.
Oh, that yes, that scene is miraculous because after having failed to electrocute this thing, well, seemingly failed, which is another thing they borrow from the original Alien, which is the many false stops. We think, oh, we got rid of the creature, we got rid of it, it's still alive. Oh, we got rid of it, it's still alive. That whole structure. They keep that for this one, which, yeah, it works. But, like, they try to electrocute it, and somebody stupidly pokes it with a sneakered shoe and goes, it grabs her. It's still alive. So they're running from it. And Commander Alan Thicke, Dr. Alan Thicke gets chomped on by it. And they go, and then, they get Captain Ivar gets the explosives, somehow gets it onto the creature's body. And this is finally the point where we actually get to see the creature, because the whole freaking movie is really dark. And I mean, like lit dark. You can't hardly see anything until the very end of this thing, when you finally see just how much of a ripoff this xenomorph is.
Yep.
It's got the phallic-looking head and everything, and appendages that don't seem to really do anything coming out of its shoulders. Don't know what that's about. But Captain Ivar tries to save the day by running outside and making the creature chase him, and he's got the bomb strapped to it, which has got a timer, and he's outside without a spacesuit. He's suffocating, which I thought when I first saw this that like I was going to see some like Total Recall type stuff where their eyeballs are going to bug out of their head. But apparently that's not what would happen on Titan, because I did look it up somewhere, and apparently Titan's atmosphere is so thick and nitrogen rich like ours that if you were on Titan's surface, you would not need a pressure suit.
I did not know.
All you would need is an oxygen mask. An oxygen mask, you couldn't hear me when I said that because I covered my mouth. You just need a little oxygen mask and a really thick parka, because temperatures on there can get like 200 degrees below zero. So really, when Joff died earlier, he wouldn't really, I mean, yes, he'd suffocate because there's not enough oxygen, but before that, he'd probably freeze to death.
Freeze to death first.
Yeah. But like, so he's got, and maybe I don't know, maybe the cold prevented this mechanism from working properly. But he's outside, he's dying, and the creature is and she's in, and the curly blonde is inside, hopefully safe. And this whole thing is happening, and we do not know the whereabouts of Officer Simone. What happened to her? We know Zombie Kinski came back. She was with Zombie Kinski when they were attacked. What happened to this powerhouse of a woman? Well, lo and behold, the bomb does not go off. And he goes, it didn't go off. And all of a sudden, out steps Officer Simone, saying, yes, it did. Shoots the bomb, which then blows up the creature. And my gosh, Kevin, that is a Schwarzenegger moment if ever I saw one.
I knew you were going to come up to that point right there and be your Schwarzenegger moment.
Because I mean, it's worthy of it, because like that was the moment where I was like, yes, that's awesome.
It is until she explains why she's been gone for like a third of the movie.
Oh gosh, well that's her child's moment. That's her "where were you, child's" moment. But it is super lame because all she says is "I got lost," which I thought for sure the twist ending of the movie would be she turns out to be, parasitically controlled by something. And nope, that is not what happens.
She got lost.
I know. It's maybe she was stoned on her prescription drugs during that. I don't know.
Well, she's a military person. She's not necessarily a scientist, so she doesn't usually have to go figure out which way to go in terms of where the derelict is, where their ship, the Shenandoah, is, and then go back to where the German ship is. Going back and forth. She
Kevin,
probably
I don't think any of these people are scientists because they're so terribly bad at their jobs. But anyway, I was thinking when I saw that glorious moment, I thought, yeah, she had a great line, but there are better ways I think we could have done that. So I'm gonna put this through the Schwarzenegger alternator to give you some alternate takes on what they could have done.
okay.
And what I'd like you to do, Kevin, is I got 3 of these, and I'd like you to feed me his line where he says, "It didn't go off," and then I'll respond. Because I think we'll get the rhythm right when you do that. Okay. Ready when you are.
It didn't go off.
Hey, penis head, suck on this. 2.
It didn't go off.
But I will. Ooh, violence. And 3.
It didn't go off.
Hey, butterfly, time to get nailed to the wall.
Oh my God. Well, that being said, whether or not Creature is a good movie or not, it seems that you had a lot of fun making fun of the movie, having watched it only a week ago, whereas I watched it a long ass time ago. And
wait, Kevin, you didn't rewatch this for the pod, man?
I rewatched it. That's how I got my notes.
Okay.
I'm also going by a lot of stuff that I still remember from the damn movie. But that's how I remembered certain aspects of the movie. Like I didn't realize my copy was a 4:3 version until I rewatched it, and the fact that I don't know if I've ever really thought about the fact that there was 2 competing companies trying to get to the moon at the same time. Because by the time the Americans get there, Klaus Kinski is the only one left.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, there's a little bit of this kind of Cold War type thing going on because remember, this isn't just Germany, this is West Germany. So this movie presupposes that it's a future where communism never fell.
So,
Which is funny because I feel like every depiction of the future pre-89 always assumed that the Soviet Union would always be enduring. Even like 2010, the year we made contact. I think even Star Trek kind of vaguely hinted in the original series, I think vaguely hinted at there was still a Soviet Union during like Khan's era or something in the late 90s. Or maybe I think maybe they might have inferred that when they did a time travel episode or something. But yeah, like everybody thought surely their Soviet empire would endure for hundreds of years, and there would be like a Soviet Union base on the moon or something. But they were wrong. But I want to talk about like how the oh gosh, what was it? Oh, the yeah, like you said, I will say like yeah, I did have fun with you at least about this movie. But it's not something I'd watch again. If I were to it's not something I'd watch again, and unless you like found some kind of weird unearthed cut of it that had more stuff in it, maybe I'd watch that. It did kind of put me in the mood to see some other Alien knockoffs because there are, I mean, let's put this out there, ladies and gentlemen. there are a lot better and worse Alien knockoffs that you could see than this movie.
Yes.
Like the big three, the best of the Alien knockoffs are probably things like Galaxy of Terror, Forbidden World. I made a list here. Some worse ones would be things like Extro 2, The Second Encounter, which has absolutely nothing to do with Extro 1.
Extra. Oh my God.
Or Parasite 3D with Demi Moore.
More? Yep.
That counts. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic version of Alien. Or Leviathan with Peter Weller, which is Alien underwater. Loads more fun than this movie.
We're going to be talking about that later in the series.
Oh, good. I'm glad that's on the list. There's even a version where the aliens are robot monsters that go to the moon with Bruce Campbell and Walter Koenig called Moontrap.
That's on the list too. I love that movie too.
Yeah, Moontrap's pretty good. My mom did let me rent that because she is a huge Trekkie. So I did watch that from the video rental store, but I couldn't friggin' rent Creature.
Oh my God. Moontrap.
And then I saw more recently there is like I saw a trailer for a Sci-Fi Channel movie that was basically Armageddon, but they find an alien on the asteroid. It's called Within the Rock. Yeah,
I love that movie.
it looked pretty good, I have to say.
Oh my God.
The creature looked good in that too. From the little I saw of it, it looked pretty well designed.
Oh my God, these movies are so cheesy, but when I saw them when I was growing up, it was like these are awesome. Yeah, Within the Rock is another one like Creature. You either can appreciate it or you definitely cannot appreciate it.
So I think I mean before we get to our rating here, there's a few like little bits of trivia and things that you need to know about this before you check it out of your mind forever, ladies and gentlemen. This movie is main claim to fame, though, is that the same effects crew that worked on this movie worked on Aliens the next year. So imagine being one of the effects guys on this movie, and then you're like, oh, thank God I'm done with Creature. Now I get to do a real Alien movie with James Cameron.
Oh my God.
And then also, like I said, Titan, the science of what Titan's really like is much more interesting than what William Malone did. Actually, if he just did like 2 seconds of research on what Titan is really like, although to be fair, our satellites that found out what's actually like on the surface of Titan probably hadn't been launched yet.
I don't think so.
But now we discovered that Titan has rivers and lakes of methane on it, and it rains on Titan, liquid water. But because it's 20% Earth gravity, it's these big droplets of water like fall slowly through the air. So that would have been a super cool scene. Also, Titan is super cool, like I said, but like because of the whole, like, he didn't have to spend too much money. He could have shot that in a quarry with some puddles of water here and there, and it would have looked just fine. I would have bought it. I'd been like, overcasty day. That's all you need. Because it's like you never see the sky on Titan. The atmosphere is so thick, you just see gas up there. But yeah, I would have bought it. I would have bought it hook, line, and sinker as a kid, especially. And we got to talk one more thing about Mr. Kinski. As we mentioned before, he has notoriously been cited as someone who is super hard to work with, but that is a testament to his talent as an actor, because back in the day before Me Too and cancel culture, if you were a megalomaniacal a-hole and wanted to pick a fight with your director every single day on set, which apparently Kinski did to William Malone, you had to be a fantastic actor to keep getting work.
Yeah.
And he did consistently. So, I mean, he even I think he even directed a movie. I don't know which one. I have to look it up. But I will say this, William Malone did talk about his experience in an issue of Fangoria. And apparently the very first thing Kinski said to him was, was, I raped my daughter when she was 16. Like he bragged about it.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, I don't doubt something like that happened, but it is not probably the reason why he wasn't ever put in jail. Was that was that well, A, Europe is funny about that sort of thing, and B, Kinski was known for also like making crap up,
Yeah.
to shock people. I don't know if you know that his autobiography, Kinski Uncut, is like 90% BS that he just straight up made up. Apparently, he collaborated with Werner Herzog, trying to create all sorts of made up drama and also like insults. Like he insults Werner Herzog like obscenely for long periods in that book, and apparently Herzog came up with the obscenities. Like, let's think of different ways you could possibly call me an a-hole. He just went on and on about that. So maybe some people would hear him say stuff like that and think, "Oh, he didn't really do that."
Well,
But then Malone said that he was eating lunch with him in the commissary, and it says, and I quote, "He had a girl with him who couldn't have been a day over 15. When she was gone from the table, I looked over and asked him, 'Klaus, where did you get this girl?' He said, 'Oh, well.'" It's hilarious. It says "vel" in this quote. "Oh, well, I hang around schoolyards." Yikes.
okay.
So, and then he says, "I knew the way he was saying it, he was telling me the truth." And the last thing that William Malone has to say about Mr. Kinski is that when he heard about he died in 99, that's when he died. So Kinski died. William Malone said, "Klaus Kinski is dead now, and the world is a better place for it. He'd be happy I said that."
Well, my final thoughts on William Malone's Creature is that I can tell everybody how much I enjoyed and loved the movie and how much it affected me by revealing to you, Thomas, that I have the novelization.
Oh, that is so meta. That is so meta.
I literally got this for myself for Christmas this year because I found it. This is a new novelization. This did not come out when the movie came out. So
it looks really shiny.
Yeah, brand new. They have two different versions. It has one with Titan Find as the title, and one is Creature.
I wonder what the difference is.
There is no difference. It's the same novel. They just did two different covers for it.
So let me ask you: in that novel,
I haven't read it yet. I just got it.
You haven't read it yet. Oh man, because I was going to ask because my object I was going to use to star this movie, that I picked was the tattered paperback novel of Scared to Death that Curly Blonde gets back at the end of the movie as if it meant something.
No, that's what made me think about to show you my novel. My novel versions of the movie is like when you mentioned the book, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's right." So that's why I want to show you my book. So what? How are we going to rate this one this time? Tell me, how are we going to rate it?
I would honestly rate this 1.5 tattered paperbacks out of 5. Scared to Death paperbacks. It's not irredeemably awful. There's good parts in it, but you could do a whole lot better.
So I'm breaking mine up in two. I'm going to break it up first as a modern film goer watching this film. I would probably also rate it about a 1 star, or one paperback tattered version of Scared to Death. It really isn't a good movie. It has its moments where it might be entertaining, but not really. As a child of when it came out in 85, and I've seen the movie a billion times, I would have to rate it as my 1985 version of myself as a 3-star movie because I've watched it. A 3-star.
You're 85.
Right, 1985 version of me because I'm still a kid back in this. That was like 10 years before I graduated high school. So what the fuck was I? Like 8 years old? 9 years old when this fucking movie came out, somewhere around there. So I watched this and I thought it was the coolest fucking movie ever. I would give it a 3 tattered paperback versions of Scared to Death based on that. Growing up me, 1. 1985, 10-year-old self, 3.
I think it's funny that even your 10-year-old self wouldn't rate it 5 out of 5. It would be 3.
Keep in mind that I also saw Deep Space. I love that fucking movie, and Alien, and a bunch of other movies. So this one wasn't as good as those, but it was still worth me watching a billion times. Mm-hmm. Because also, there wasn't a whole bunch of sex in Alien as there was in this one. In theory, my small little 9-year-old brain. There's a lot when you're watching this movie in 85 as a young kid who's barely 10 years old. You're like seeing shit that you don't see in other movies. You don't see it in fucking mainstream movies. They're like, oh, this is cool. Oh, wow, that face got ripped off by the hands of another dude. That was cool. So it was different. So
I'll say even on that front, this movie doesn't go nearly as hard into that as even Galaxy of Terror. Like Galaxy of Terror has a woman who gets raped to death by a giant maggot.
I know.
And Forbidden World apparently has 2 topless possessed ladies in a sauna. I think I haven't seen it. I don't know. I've just seen the trailer.
God, I've seen all these movies.
Yeah, there's a lot more sex stuff in either of those movies than there is in this movie. So,
Roger Corman, he did it all back in the day.
Roger Corman.
All right, everyone, I want to thank Thomas for joining us for Conversations in Horror. I hope you've enjoyed this very elaborate look at a very bad movie. Guilty pleasure movie. The thing is, I hope you enjoy our conversation, for one, but the thing is, we hope that you enjoy these movies, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether you enjoy them at all as guilty pleasures, whether they're just complete trash cinema. The whole point of our show is to kind of delve into these undelvable films and kind of come out the end with a greater appreciation of them. As I hope Thomas has now gone after our long conversation. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us for Conversations in Horror. Please check us out on our previous episodes, and we look forward to bringing you more in the future. We have a lot more great movies and bad movies to bring you. Have a good evening. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.